Welcome back to the deep dive, everyone. I'm your host, and I'm super excited to get into today's topic.
And I'm here as well to, provide the psychological context for all of this. It's a really great one today.
It really is. So, you know that very specific, almost universal cringe you experience when you hear a recording of your own voice for the first time.
Oh, absolutely. The absolute worst.
Right. You just stop and think, "Wait, is that really what I sound like to other people?"
Yeah, because it's jarring. It's deeply familiar, but also completely alien at the same time.
Exactly. Now, I want you to take that exact cognitive dissonance, just multiply it by 100 and apply it to your own face.
That is quite the visual.
Yeah, but we are not talking about, like, catching a bad angle in a photograph or, I don't know, messing around with a standard social media filter. We are talking about seeing your face reconstructed, reimagined, and completely remixed by artificial intelligence.
Which is, frankly, a profoundly unsettling experience for the human brain, because it fundamentally breaks the rules of how we've always perceived ourselves.
How do you mean?
Well, for all of human history, recognizing yourself in a reflection or a static image was essentially it was an exercise in physics. Light bounces off a surface, hits a lens or a mirror, and shows you what is objectively there.
Right. It's just reality bouncing back at you.
Exactly. But what we're dealing with now completely bypasses physics. We are dealing with conceptual reconstruction.
And that psychological fallout, like what actually happens to a human being when they realize they can reconstruct themselves as anything, that is exactly what we are exploring today.
And we have some incredible source material for it.
We do. We're looking at a brilliant essay titled Becoming Virtual, The Psychology of Recreating Ourselves Through AI. And it centers on this really fascinating specific case study called the Virtual Meltem Project.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that if you're just scrolling past this kind of stuff online, it is incredibly easy to dismiss it.
Oh, totally. You might just think, oh, great, another AI portrait series, another person using diffusion models to, like, make themselves look like a cyborg on Instagram.
Right, just vanity.
Exactly. But the author realized something much heavier was happening here. Okay, let's unpack this. The core mission of our deep dive today is to explore why generating these AI personas is not just some superficial vanity trend.
It's actually a massive leap in psychological world building.
Yes, and it is testing the absolute limits of human identity.
Which is such a necessary distinction to make, honestly, because if you look at the architecture of our daily lives, society effectively forces you into a highly stable, recognizable identity.
For sure, you have to be the same person at work on Tuesday that you were on Monday.
Right, you are heavily incentivized to maintain a coherent appearance, a predictable emotional baseline, and, a socially understandable personality. Consistency is rewarded with trust.
You can't just show up as a totally different entity.
No, exactly. But what this source material challenges and what KI allows us to actually test is the assumption that human identity was ever meant to be singular or fixed in the first place.
Right, the whole idea that there's just one true version of you and everything else is just, I don't know, playing dress up.
Exactly.
So we already know the technical difference between a traditional camera lens and a diffusion model. Like you said, the camera captures photons,
Right.
but the diffusion model maps human concepts.
Right.
But what this essay really nails is the psychological mechanism of that shift. When you are prompting an AI to generate you, you aren't pointing a lens at your physical body, you are pointing an algorithm at your internal state.
And that is a huge shift. Because AI generates images based on text prompts, it acts as a direct pipeline to the subconscious.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Think about the physical world for a second. Your identity is constrained by friction. It's limited by your actual body, your budget, your geography, and perhaps most importantly, your own self-censorship.
Like if I want to radically change how I look, I have to go out and buy clothes,
Yeah.
dye my hair,
Yeah.
face the judgment of my friends.
Endure that super awkward transition period.
The dreaded awkward phase.
Exactly. But in the latent space of an AI model, there is zero friction. You type your raw, unfiltered mood, and the AI renders it instantly.
It's almost like looking into a funhouse mirror. But instead of just stretching your nose or making you look tall, the mirror reflects your hidden moods or suppressed personality traits right back at you.
That's a really good way of putting it. It's like a psychological autocomplete.
Yeah. Just like your phone finishes your text messages based on your past behavior, the AI finishes your visual identity based on the latent desires you feed into the prompt.
But that creates this intense, uncanny tension. What's fascinating here is that You're looking at the screen, you recognize the structure of your cheekbones or the shape of your eyes.
But you feel completely detached from the image.
Exactly. You might see a version of yourself that looks overwhelmingly anxious or wildly arrogant or deeply serene, even if you're just sitting in your sweatpants on the couch drinking a coffee.
So weird. Why does it feel so tense, though?
The tension comes from the lack of a physical anchor. When an AI generates you, the result exists in this incredibly strange liminal space between documentary truth and pure fiction.
Because sometimes the interpretation is entirely inaccurate.
Right. Sometimes it is incredibly beautiful, and sometimes it's deeply unsettling precisely because it gets something emotionally right about you that your physical face was trying to hide.
Which is exactly what makes AI identity projects so emotionally addictive.
It provides a perfectly safe psychological stage with absolutely no real-world consequences.
Okay, so if AI completely strips away those physical barriers, what actually happens to a person when they realize they can be absolutely anyone? Like, does the creator of this Virtual Meltem project just lose her mind in the digital sandbox? Or is there an actual method to the madness here?
Oh, there is a very deliberate method, and the contrast is what makes the case study so compelling. The creator generated not just one, but a multitude of constantly evolving digital personas.
Like completely different characters.
Vastly different characters that she would inhabit digitally. There was a city girl just trying to survive the chaos of Istanbul.
Right.
There was a literal clown. There was a heavily stylized streetwear character performing aggressive confidence. A hyper-feminine office worker trapped in corporate life.
Wow, that's quite the range.
And then this almost unrecognizable futuristic figure completely covered in artificial textures, plastics, and excessive accessories.
And what I find so fascinating is the juxtaposition between the avatars and the creator's actual life.
Right. The real world versus the digital.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because in reality, the essay notes that she naturally gravitates toward darker tones. She prefers minimal styling, a very controlled, understated aesthetic.
Very muted.
Yeah, very muted. But inside this virtual AI world, through her prompts, she becomes exactly the opposite. She is relentlessly colorful, dramatic, playful, excessive, and emotionally exaggerated.
Which is a huge departure.
It is. But I hear that, and I have to ask, if you're spending 8 hours a day as a digital, hyper-feminine office worker, or rendering yourself as a colorful clown, all while wearing black sweatpants in real life, at what point does that expansion just become an addiction to a reality you can't actually have?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Doesn't this just sound like the ultimate form of escapism? Like she is running away from the mundane reality of her physical life because it's just easier to be a shiny, frictionless digital avatar.
It is the most common critique of digital life, absolutely, and it is a completely valid question, but the text addresses this head-on and completely reframes the dynamic.
How so?
The creator explicitly states that this process does not feel like escaping herself. It feels like expanding herself.
Expanding?
Yes. Think of it like a pressure valve. AI is allowing these hidden aesthetics and latent desires to surface. It gives them a tangible place to exist fully and completely for a brief moment.
So she doesn't have to permanently change who she is in the physical world
Yeah.
to validate that those other parts of her personality exist.
Precisely.
Expanding, not escaping. I really want to linger on that for a second because that is a massive paradigm shift. It completely changes how we view digital avatars.
It really does.
If we look at video games, for example, people spend hours in the character creation menu,
Yeah.
right? They carefully adjust the jawline, the armor, the posture.
Right.
We usually call that role-playing.
Right, you're playing a character.
But what you were saying is, when you use an AI trained on your actual face, it's not role-playing a fantasy character. It's prototyping a suppressed version of yourself.
Prototyping is the exact right word. It's honestly no different than an architect building a digital model of a bridge to see how it handles stress before actually pouring the concrete.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Thanks. AI allows you to prototype an identity without the physical commitment. You can explore the absolute extremes of your personality, experience the emotional resonance of that persona, and then simply close the laptop.
You don't have to actually go buy the hyper-feminine office wardrobe.
Or figure out how to apply theatrical clown makeup every morning. The temporary identity serves its emotional purpose and then just dissolves.
Okay, let me stop you there. Are you saying we are all inherently fractured like this?
Essentially, yes.
Because if I show up to work acting completely different than I do at home, or if I change my entire personality depending on who I'm talking to, people don't look at me and think, wow, what a fluid, expansive identity.
You know, they don't.
They think I'm being fake.
Yeah.
We are taught that authenticity means being the exact same everywhere.
We are taught that, yes. But human psychology strongly disagrees. To understand why human beings naturally crave this kind of fragmentation, the essay draws a really brilliant connection to the work of Carl Jung.
Okay, the psychology heavy hitter.
Exactly. As we mentioned earlier, society rewards consistency for the sake of social order. But creativity and human emotion are inherently unstable.
They fluctuate constantly.
Right. Our internal state shifts based on emotion, fantasy, memory, deep-seated insecurities, desire, boredom, or simply the need for survival. Jung introduced the concept of the persona, which literally translates to the masks that people wear to navigate different social situations.
Right, so you have a mask for your family, a mask for your boss, a mask for your friends.
Precisely. But the critical argument the source makes regarding these AI personas is that they are not deceptive masks meant to hide the true self.
They aren't lies.
No, they aren't lies. They are emotional extensions of the exact same person. They're all her. The clown, the streetwear character, the office girl, they're all authentic, isolated pieces of the same psychological puzzle. AI just allows her to look at them one by one.
And what really clicked for me in the essay is the historical parallel they draw to fashion.
Yes.
Because fashion understood this fluid, fragmented nature of identity way before modern psychology or artificial intelligence ever did.
It is a fantastic parallel. Fashion was basically our first identity technology.
Literally.
The text points out that a simple change in silhouette can completely alter a person's behavior. We all know this intuitively. You literally stand differently, walk differently, and speak differently in a tailored suit than you do in baggy sweatpants.
Oh, for sure. And makeup has always acted as literal emotional armor.
Exactly. A costume grants you temporary social sanction permission to step outside the bounds of your normal constraints and be someone entirely different for a night.
Right. Clothing has never just been about looking nice or staying warm. It has always been a tool for psychological transformation.
Always.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, and how this directly maps onto the listener's daily life. Because you might be listening to this thinking, well, this is all very theoretical. I don't use diffusion models to generate avatars of myself as a chaotic clown.
Most people don't.
Right. But you actually already do this, just on a different platform. Think about social media.
Oh, definitely.
Your LinkedIn identity professional, polished, team-oriented, constantly thrilled to announce things is vastly different from your TikTok or Instagram personality, which is probably more chaotic, humorous, or highly aesthetic.
And both of those are entirely different from your private, offline self. It is a spot-on comparison. Social media conditioned us over the last 15 years to accept curated performances of identity. We are already very comfortable slicing ourselves into different demographic presentations depending on the app we are opening.
We don't even think twice about it anymore.
We don't. What AI does is simply take that existing psychological conditioning and remove all the remaining friction.
Because to curate an Instagram aesthetic, you still have to put in physical effort.
Right. You still have to go to the coffee shop, buy the latte, find the good lighting, take the photo, edit it.
Yeah.
AI says, skip the physical world entirely. Just tell me what mood you want to project and I will build the reality around it.
Which takes us to the ultimate conclusion of the source material. We are moving way past AI as just a neat little image generator.
Oh, way past it.
The creator of Virtual Meltem realized that the prompting process had evolved. It was no longer image-making. It was full-blown psychological world-building. Every concept she generated became what the author calls an emotional architecture.
That phrase, emotional architecture, is the key to understanding the whole project.
It's such a good phrase.
It really is. The AI wasn't just generating a picture of a face. It was constructing an entire visual environment designed to house a very specific, isolated human emotion.
I really want to break down those specific emotional architectures from the essay because they explain so much about how we use digital spaces to process modern life.
Let's do it.
Let's look at the clown. The clown wasn't just a prompt for red makeup and a funny wig. It was an exploration of performance itself. The exhausting nature of having to constantly entertain or mask your true feelings with emotional exaggeration.
And look at the hyper-feminine office girl.
Yeah, that one was intense.
That series wasn't just a commentary on corporate attire. The prompt was built to reflect urban loneliness and the relentless, draining culture of modern productivity.
You had to grind, basically.
The AI rendered a world that felt sterile, fluorescent, and deeply isolating, with the avatar perfectly adapted to survive in it. Then you have the editorial close-ups, which the creator used to dismantle the concept of beauty, showing it as a sheer artificial construction.
And the streetwear looks, which she used to perform feelings of confidence, defiance, and controlled aggression. I have to admit, reading through those descriptions made me wonder what my subconscious would spit out if I just let an AI generate my raw moods.
I'm curious now, too.
I know for a fact my AI persona would probably just be a guy taking a nap in a tuxedo in the middle of a forest.
Just aggressively formal exhaustion.
Yes, just profound exhaustion mixed with an irrational need to be formally dressed. But jokes aside, what is so striking about the essay is that the creator noted some of these generated images felt incredibly empowering, while others felt deeply unsettling.
Because they were so accurate.
Right. And here is the kicker. Some of the images didn't even look like human faces anymore. They looked completely detached from physical reality. Yet she said they felt emotionally accurate in ways she couldn't fully articulate.
Because the AI was no longer rendering physical geometry, it was rendering a mood.
It was mapping a feeling.
Exactly. The AI was taking an invisible, abstract feeling like the burnout of corporate productivity or the aggression of surviving a chaotic city and giving it a face, a texture, and a world. It externalizes the invisible.
And when you look out at the broader culture right now, you see this massive, accelerating blur between person and image.
It's everywhere.
We have AI influencers with millions of followers who don't even have a physical body. We have digital avatars replacing profile pictures entirely. We have synthetic beauty standards driven by algorithms that no human biology can actually achieve without extreme surgery or filters.
It's a fundamental shift in aesthetics.
Modern identity is rapidly becoming just an editable visual concept. So I have to ask the obvious question here.
Go for it.
If we're constantly editing ourselves based on our audience, our algorithmic visibility, and our fluctuating moods, is our modern identity inherently artificial? Have we just replaced humanity with a prompt?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the profound realization of the source material is that the AI images aren't creating the artificiality.
They aren't.
No. Modern identity itself already is artificial. People are exhausted by the demand to maintain singular, fixed identities in a world that requires us to be 100 different things a day.
That makes a lot of sense.
The internet long ago transformed the human self into something mutable, something that can be redesigned endlessly depending on the platform or the audience. AI is simply the mirror that finally shows us what we've been doing all along.
Wow.
It externalizes the inner fluctuation that was already happening inside of us and makes our internal instability starkly visible.
So what does this all mean? If we distill everything we've unpacked today, from the latent space of diffusion models to Carl Jung's masks and the Virtual Meltem project, the core takeaway for you is this. Human identity was never static to begin with.
Never.
We were never meant to be just one coherent thing day in and day out forever. AI isn't just generating fake pictures for your social media feed. It is fundamentally changing the core philosophical question we ask ourselves.
It's a huge shift in perspective.
For centuries, the ultimate question of human identity has been, who am I? But now, with the friction of the physical world completely removed, AI is forcing us to ask a totally different question. Who else could I become?
And that raises an incredibly important question for you to take away and mull over.
Absolutely.
We've talked extensively about how AI allows you to flawlessly and endlessly prototype infinite versions of yourself digitally. But if you have access to a limitless, consequence-free digital realm where you can perfectly externalize your hidden desires, your suppressed moods, and exact versions of who you want to be at any given second.
How do you decide which version of you actually has to wake up, drink a mediocre cup of coffee, and live in the rigid physical world?
Exactly. Will physical reality eventually just become the mundane waiting room between being our true, expansive virtual selves?
Man, that is a heavy thought to leave on. Reality is just the waiting room for the virtual self.
It really makes you think.
It does. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the psychology of AI. We hope you look at your next text prompt or your next attempt at curating your digital life just a little bit differently. See you next time.